They're doing the skill-based matchmaking from a position of thinking it matters, right? I mean, in the end, their job is to create a game that has a lot of players so they can make a lot of money, right? I mean, they're doing it to make money because, yeah, their metrics are showing them that they're retaining new players. Well, that's great,
That's
but
only one
but
little part of
yeah,
the thing.
exactly.
It's a
Yeah,
fucking amazing game.
it
It is
is.
an
It's
amazing game.
yeah,
And as frustrating as I get, I will still want to play it
yeah.
just because it is still that good.
Well, it's like
But
you're trying to find a way to play it right now that you can have fun. So you're probably watching this video because you saw in the title that I'm going to be talking about one of the most controversial systems in Apex Legends, which of course is skill-based matchmaking. For a bit of fun perspective, I'm going to present this video as if I'm a game designer at Respawn looking to convince management to change the system. Of course, if you're a sympathetic game designer at Respawn and you want to take this presentation and use it, feel free to do so. You're welcome. And of course, the only way to do a presentation like this is to use PowerPoint. So here we go. So my presentation today is on skill-based matchmaking in Apex Legends. Why is it broken and how do we fix it? So let's start off with why we have skill-based matchmaking at Respawn. So our goal with skill-based matchmaking is to retain new players by preventing a bad initial experience. So we want them to get some kills early in the games, and we want them to win a few games before they get too far into the process and give them an initial high-quality experience. We're also trying to retain existing players by providing a consistent play experience versus similarly skilled players. So we don't want players to get crushed in every fight. We think then they're more likely to stay, and as a result of that, they're more likely to spend money on cosmetics. So we love our players. We want to make a great game. It's definitely a big part of the passion of why we do this. But in the end, if we don't make money, then we won't have a game to sell to people. Our current assumption is that if we make a great experience for 80% of the players, that the other 20% who are more hardcore will probably stick around anyway. I think this is flawed logic, and I'll talk about that a bit more later on. So let's move on to why I think skill-based matchmaking is broken in its current form. So I'm going to talk about this from a few different perspectives. Firstly, what's the elite player experience? Secondly, the high-level player experience. Next, the inconsistent experience that average players tend to have, followed by the lack of transparency leading to wild speculation and dissatisfaction with the current system. And then finally, what the new player experience is with our current approach. So let's talk about the elite level player experience. They seem generally happy to play against other players of a similar level most of the time. With the current skill-based matchmaking system, however, non-ranked games, if anything, seem tougher than playing high-level ranked, which should definitely not be the experience that they're having. It's very difficult for them just to chill out and on occasion play a relaxed game in a mixed-level lobby. They eventually just burn out playing the same pool of small players in these super intense games. So I think this overall experience is fairly well captured by a video that Simply Ashton posted recently, where he sent a tweet to the Respawn developers and they responded to him. So let's listen to what he has to say about his experience as a high-level player.
I'm a top 1100 Predator, so I understand why I'm in this bracket. Here's what myself and my friends think. Skill-based matchmaking is not fun for those of us at the top, as the skill level of the lobby is very wide. We match with top 100 players for kills and wins consistently, such as Zombie Slayer J, Bowsy89, etc. on Xbox. While we enjoy these fights sometimes, it becomes tiring when this is regular for us. On the other side of the coin, there are also clearly some players below who don't belong in this high of a bracket who are clearly out of their depth. Since this has become the case, Apex has felt like a chore to us. We cannot laugh and joke while playing as we have to be at full concentration levels while playing in pubs.
So moving on to the high-level player experience, this is where one of the biggest area of complaints seems to come from, as so eloquently expressed by Freedom in the video intro. These players are very good, but not elite-level players. However, they are often lumped into the elite lobbies by the skill-based matchmaking system, especially late at night. It makes playing with their lower-level friends a brutal exercise in frustration. They can't just jump into a game, get a mixture of some tough, some easy encounters, or tough and easy games. And really, in the end, they just can't have fun playing the game. So the next group of players that we're going to talk about is this average player, right? So let's take a case study of a player by the name of Duncanus, who you may have heard of. So Duncanus is a 54-year-old famous Twitch streamer and YouTuber. Well, one day we hope. He's a good gamer, but very little experience in FPS shooter style games. He was terrible at the game early, but has stuck to the game since launch and is now competent. He falls squarely into the category that we at Respawn consider to be a beneficiary of skill-based matchmaking. He has a wide range of friends to play with, but many are much more skilled than he is. He can hold his own with most of them, but usually gets significantly less kills and damage when he plays as those guys. So if we take a look at Duncan as a stats, we can see that he has a career KDR around 0.33. The KDR for the current season is a 0.57. And if we jump to Season 2, the Battle Charge season, we can see that it was as low as 0.19. And before that, it was actually 0.15, although I don't have a screenshot for that. The issue that Duncan has here is that his stats are heavily reduced by playing with high-level friends. So the skill gap there, where if he plays with a friend who is maybe 20, 30, 40% better than he is, gets compounded by a number of factors. So firstly, the highest level party member seems to be the major contributor to what type of players you go up against. There's also a bit of a range of players there, so we may end up in a lobby where the other teams have a player who is better again than the best level person in your lobby or in your squad. This is compounded by the fact that if you're in a pre-made squad, which you would be in this case, then it tends to put you with other pre-made squads as near as we can tell. This makes the game even tougher because that pre-made squad may well be made up of 3 players who are all of slightly higher skill level than the highest level member in your party. So the result of this is shredded Duncanus when he comes up against this triple stacked team of high level players. Now, if we jump to the scenario when Duncanus solo queues, things become much easier for Duncanus. He regularly gets 6 to 10 kills with 1,000 to 2,000 damage, as you can see from the screenshot here. When he plays with a solid teammate, the squad just rolls through the lobbies for an easy win. Makes for good highlight videos, and as a result of this, his KDR would probably be over 3 if he was just solo queuing all the time. So how does poor old Duncanus rate himself? What do his stats mean? They're really a meaningless metric at this point. So one of the other issues that we have with skill-based matchmaking in its current form is the lack of transparency. So nobody knows how the system works. So when you create a void like that, people will speculate on how the system works and make things up. Now the problem becomes there is that people will then blame it every time something goes wrong. No matter how we tweak and adjust the system, maybe to broaden the bands so that people play in a more random mix of players within a certain skill range, they will not be able to see that system. And so because human beings have a tendency to see patterns, if they get a few bad experiences in a row, they'll blame that on skill-based matchmaking and say that, hey, it always puts me in tough lobbies against apex predators all the time, where in fact the system may have actually been relaxed, but that's not how people see things, right? If people remember the high points and the low points, they don't remember the average experience. So at this point, because of that lack of transparency and the fact that people distrust the skill-based matchmaking system, nobody will give it a chance, even if it does improve dramatically to a point where they might be happy with it if they knew how it was working. So let's talk about the new player experience. The current SBM system focuses on working out skill rankings and matching components of the system. It works out how good it thinks somebody is and it puts them into a lobby based on their skill level. The details of this system, though, are hidden from the player. And we have a term in software development called security by obfuscation. This basically says that if you're hiding the details of some key piece of information in a place that's hard to get, that it will be secure because people can't find that piece of information. The problem with this is eventually people will work it out, they'll find out how that system works, and then they'll bypass or exploit that security system. So a similar issue happens here with the skill-based matchmaking. This system was designed to protect the new players, but it fails to do so. And the reason for this is that players have worked out that based on the way the system works, that if they create a new Smurf account, that they can get at least 10 or so games against these low-level players before the system works out that they're actually a higher-level player and moves them up into tougher lobbies. Now, players are highly incentivized to prime a new account and achieve these sort of highly desirable badges that you can get within the game for like bragging rights or even to sell an account. So these are like the 4K badges, the 20 kill badges, the Apex Predator badges. And the problem with this is that it creates a very bad experience for new players and it feeds this troll-like behavior. So now we get to the meat of this video, which is how do we go about fixing the problems with skill-based matchmaking? So I want to talk about a number of areas here. The first will be how do we create more transparency in the system? The second one, which ties into this, is having 4 lobbies with visible player tiers for non-ranked play. So this may sound a little bit like just a ranked system in disguise, but I'll explain as we go through why that's not the case. I think you'll see as it evolves that this is not necessarily the case. I want to create fun and engaging incentives for players to want to play in the tiers they've been assigned to feel that it's actually the right place to be. I want to create controlled crossover between the top 2 tiers, which will make more sense when you see how the system works. And I want to de-incentivize and add friction to smurfing in novice lobbies. So I want to start off talking briefly about transparency. So the current system has no transparency, leading to wild speculation and blaming the system for all of the problems with the game. The following features that I'm going to just talk about make it clear to the player the broad brushstrokes of the system, so they know where they stand, they know what's going on at a broad level. There'll still be low-level details of the skill-based ranking system or the algorithm itself, which will be hidden, and that's primarily to allow us to tweak and adjust that algorithm as we see fit without getting a backlash because we've changed it in some specific way. So I want to start off by talking about the lobbies and the player tiers or statuses that will be in the game. So we'll have a novice, apprentice, a general/journeyman tier and player status, and then an elite. Now, it may sound on the surface to be just another ranked system in the classic context of the things, but we'll see as we go into detail why I don't believe that is the case. The first of these 2 are for new players as a temporary landing spot only. So let's start off by digging a little into the novice lobby. So all new accounts start off with a novice status and play in the novice lobbies. You remain here until you meet the criteria for advancement. So in the case of moving from a novice to apprentice level, you reach level 20, you'll immediately be advanced. Also though, if you get 10 plus kills or 2,500 plus damage in a single game, then you'll advance. So if you come out, do 2,600 damage, you'll immediately advance to the next tier. If you, on the other hand, get 20 plus kills or 4,000 plus damage in a single game, then you'll skip the apprentice level completely and move on to journeyman. Now you may be asking, how does this stop me from getting those fancy badges that we talked about? We'll dig a bit deeper into that when we talk about incentives for the game. So if we step up to the apprentice tier, we can see here that players with the apprentice status will play in the apprentice lobby. And this is a transition lobby for new players. It steps them up from the novice status. So it's like eases the movement from being a complete novice into playing with the general population. To advance to the journeyman's tier or journeyman status from here, you have to either reach level 50 or get 10 kills or 2,500 plus damage in this new slightly tougher lobby. So in both of these lobbies, the intent is that this kill and damage thresholds will advance Smurf players as quickly as possible out of these lobbies and into general population. The position that I have as well is that if you've reached level 50 in the game, you've invested enough time and energy into the game, and you're probably enjoying it enough that it's really time for you to move into the general population anyway. So let's talk about the general lobby and the journeyman status. So the great majority of players are going to remain as journeyman and play in this general lobby. I had toyed with the term adept, as in being adept at the game versus journeyman. Not quite sold on either yet, so perhaps some feedback there. Most players will remain in this level for the life of their time playing Apex, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. All games are made up of randomly matched squads. So the players are drawn from a pool of squads that are logged into the server that the squad leader is connected to. The highest level player in a squad determines the level of that squad. So if one player is journeyman, the rest are novices, then everyone's playing in the general lobby together. It may make sense to split the lobbies into pre-made versus solo queues, since in general, pre-made squads are more likely to have voice communications and be playing together as a team, which generally makes them tougher, even if as individuals their level is a certain level. But that may also create some complications with the random mix of teams. So that we someone have to look at based on populations of how many of each type are there, and it may be something we don't even have to bother with. Maybe it works just to mix everyone together. There's no mixing of the first 3 lobbies, so novice, apprentice, and general level lobbies are never mixed together. Players can move up if they're playing with a higher level player, but all things being equal, a novice players will play in the novice lobbies, and general players or journeyman players will never go down into the novice lobbies. Players progress logically from one level to the next up to this journeyman status. Journeyman players, though, can be temporarily promoted into the elite lobby for one game, and we'll talk about more of that later on. So let's talk about the elite level player. So this is possibly the most contentious part of this solution as to whether we even need to separate out players in this way. I think that we do, but we'll talk more about that later. The top 5 to 10% of all players with active accounts would be these elite level players. The exact percentage requires us to sort of crunch the population metrics to work out how many people are on at any given point in time, and then work out how we make sure that we have enough players in that level to make the games interesting, while not having so many that players who don't really deserve to play with those elite level players end up in that pool. The level is going to be determined by some version of the current skill-based matchmaking system. The metrics that are currently being calculated would be used to determine this elite level status. The elite level status is dynamic and assigned in real time. So as players improve and get better or worse relative to the other players in the game, their level would change. Players can lose this elite status if they're inactive for a period of time, like probably something like a month or so. The other alternative would be that we just add an atrophy type system into the skill-based matching metric so that time also reduces your level over time. So if you're a Shroud or Asus level player, that it may take much longer for you to atrophy out of the elite level status, whereas somebody's closer to the bubble may drop out after just a few days if they don't play regularly. So players don't want to and shouldn't have to play every game against a lobby of the same elite level players every time. So this system allows for some overlap between the general and elite lobbies in a fun and engaging kind of way. So we'll talk a bit more about that later on. But the key thing is players do not get to choose to play an elite level lobby, right? It must be earned, and it's seen as a source of status, a sort of pride that you're playing in those lobbies. So this diagram is just to give a quick overview of how the various pieces fit together. So you can see that there's a progress from novice up to potentially elite if you're good enough. There are ways to bypass that apprentice level with the 4K damage, 20 kills. And then more importantly, you'll see that there's these lines that go up and down from the elite status that allow you to drop down into the general status from the elite tier at times. And also to potentially go up into the elite status from general at certain situations. So the first component of this system is to create clear transparency of the status that you're at and the lobby that you're in. So the player's status level is clearly displayed on the lobby page, and they're notified when that status changes. So just at a glance, looking at the lobby page, you can tell that you're a journeyman or an elite level player, a novice, and so forth. The status shouldn't be flipping back rapidly where possible, so I shouldn't play one game in elite, one game in general, another game in elite, another game in general. There should be some kind of a buffer in there that allows a player that hits the elite level status to get 4 or 5 games in that elite level to sort of adjust themselves to that new pacing. And likewise, if somebody drops back down into general, they'd probably play a few games there, maybe 5 games or so before the skill-based matchmaking would move them back up into elite if they are playing right on the edge of that bubble. The lobby level that you're playing in is also going to be clearly displayed in the top right corner when in game, just as it is in the current rank system, but with different icons, right? So you'll be able to see that you're in an elite level lobby by seeing the elite lobby in the top right corner. These icons are similar looking to the current ranked icons. It's very important that players know their current status and the lobby that they've been placed in for the rest of this system to work reliably. So let's talk now about the incentive piece of this equation, which is the badges. So currently, the key badges that people want to get are things like the 4K 20 kill badges, the other kill damage win-based badges like Apex Predator, and they've become somewhat meaningless at this point. Players create Smurf accounts until they get these badges and they level up those accounts. So under this system, no badges that include these damage, kills, downs, or wins as a component of achievement are rewarded in the novice or apprentice lobbies. So those players that created a new account, jump into the novice lobby, destroy everybody, get 4,500 damage, are not going to get a badge for doing that, and then would be immediately advanced out of that and back into the general lobby again. So very little incentive for players to drop into those low-level lobbies since there's not much to achieve except the pure troll behavior, which is always going to be a little bit hard to counter. Existing badges can still be earned in the general lobby. So if you're playing the general lobby and you get 4K, you get that 4K badge just like you do right now. So players who already have those badges get to maintain them. However, a new version of these badges are created that can be earned in the elite level lobbies only. So if you earn one of these badges in the elite level lobby, the first time that you meet the achievement level for one of these special badges, you'll get a bronze star in the top left corner of the badge. If you make the achievement, you earn the achievement 5 times, then you'll earn a silver star instead, and doing the achievement 25 times gives you a gold star. For every extra 25 times you do this, up to 100 times, you earn an extra gold star shown in the other 3 corners. Now, the exact numbers for 25 times 5 times may need to be tweaked based on how difficult or easy that is thought to be, but I think these are a reasonable starting point. These badges will be a huge source of pride and can only be earned in the elite level lobbies. So being the first 4-star 20 bomb or 4K player will be a huge event and certainly a source of great pride for any elite level player. So the next piece of the solution here is the idea of promoting players from the general lobby into elite lobbies on a temporary basis. So it's used to both help fill out the elite level lobbies in quiet times and also to provide a little bit of variety for those elite level players. So they're still getting some of the better players coming and playing the lobby with them based on the system, but those are not always the same elite level players every time they play. Anytime the player gets kills or damage in a general lobby, they'll be adding points to a hidden meter. So the exact numbers to be determined, but there's some kind of calculation based on a ratio of kills and damage that increments points in this hidden meter. When a squad as a combined unit has the most points in the lobby, they may be promoted for one game to fill out an elite level lobby. The points get cleared from each player when they are downed and unable to be respawned. So leaving early from a game will not clear the points. A player must at least get to the point of being unable to be respawned, having died in order to lose those points. And those points are cleared and given to players on an individual basis. So it's the combination of all the points from the 3 players in the team that determines the team's or the squad's points level. So if a player doesn't want to play in that elite lobby and they back out, they'd have to go and find somebody else to play with who has less points, which would then allow them to play in the general lobby. Eventually, though, they would end up with enough points that no matter who they play with, they would get promoted into the elite level lobby. So also important that no more than 5 teams would ever be promoted into a given elite level lobby. So there's at least 15 squads per lobby that are of elite level. And this is to ensure the integrity of that elite level lobby. And like I said, it may be that we always promote 5 teams from somewhere into the lobby that allows them to have that slight mix of players that keeps the consistency level of the elite lobbies to be similar. Any given team should only ever be promoted very occasionally into the elite level lobby. So you have to accrue these points, and if there's enough players in the general lobby, which now remember includes almost everybody who's not a novice player, it'll only be very occasionally that you'll get promoted. And the weaker a team is, the less likely it is to get promoted. So a team that is in the upper level of the general lobby might get promoted, say, once a night, whereas a team that is much weaker at the bottom end may get promoted once every week or 2. So it's sort of, as people are getting on the cusp of moving to elite, they're more likely to get occasionally promoted into that elite level lobby, which gives them experience in doing so without it being a constant grind. The current system has a tendency just to shove you into the elite lobby for a whole bunch of games until you realize you can't compete. Then you drop down for 1 or 2 games, destroy everybody, then bounce back up. This provides a much more consistent experience, more controlled one, and more importantly, very visible one, right? The player knows what they're in for. They know that they're in that elite level lobby. So it's very, very important, like I said, that it's very clear that teams have been promoted into these lobbies. But players should see this, a journeyman player should see this as an opportunity to get a shot at an elite badge. Even if it may be unlikely, they may just catch a team at a wrong time, have a good game, And if they are the higher level players in that general lobby, then it's more likely that they'll get promoted a little bit more often. They're more likely to have the ability maybe to get a 2K badge, or a maybe not a 20 kill badge might be tough, but perhaps there are slightly lower level to those badges, given that the elite lobbies are tougher. Maybe there's a 10K elite badge, right? Sorry, a 10 kill elite badge. So the reverse of being promoted into the elite level lobby is giving the elite players the ability to occasionally go down into the general lobby. So The way that this system works is that elite level players are awarded tickets based on time played. So it's probably something like 1 ticket for every 3 hours of gameplay or something like that to be determined. It might end up being 5 hours, maybe it's 2 hours. We have to work out the balances there. The thing is that at most a player can accumulate a maximum of 5 tickets before they have to use one of those tickets in order to earn another one. If all players in a given squad have at least 1 ticket or are not elite level players themselves, so maybe 2 players have elite tickets and the other one is a journeyman player, then they can queue for a general lobby game. Only 1 elite squad will ever be assigned to a given general lobby at any given point in time. So if enough lobbies are not available for squads, they have to either wait or switch servers to find a lobby where they can do that. When a squad lands on the ground, a ring will pulse on the map for a few seconds to let everyone know, and maybe a sound plays or a voiceover or something like that says there's an elite level squad in this lobby. And that'll be sort of something that players then become aware of, that there's something to take into consideration. It almost creates a different game mode, that we're now playing a game with an elite player in it. And one possibility that I think might be a good idea is that at each time the ring closes, their location gets pulsed once again. So you get kind of a very broad concept of where the elite squad is moving throughout the game, not in real time, but as just they're there now, right? So that will create some interesting behaviors, right? That the journeyman players may decide to avoid that elite level team for as long as possible. And perhaps the elite team gets to the end of the game, then you're going to end up having to fight them. Vice versa, it may be that early on the drop, if you see that elite level squad is nearby, perhaps few teams go after them as quickly as possible and try to get them before they get good guns. So it becomes this cat and mouse game in either one direction or the other. Now, it could be that whoever wins that game gets a special badge. So an elite level team that comes down playing as the mouse in that game of people being marked gets a badge because they managed to survive and win a game when they were the marked team. Vice versa, it may be that whoever wins the game who is not elite gets a different badge that says, I won a game where there was an elite level team in here. So we either killed them or managed to avoid them until we got to the end game. So this system limits the number of elite players that end up in the general pool, but makes it a kind of fun, engaging way for things to happen. So it could provide some bragging rights through cool badges, and it gives the opportunity for the elite level players to have up to 5 games in this sort of fun, lighthearted game mode, and then to show off their elite badges. So let's say that you're a 2-star 4K badge on your game. Whenever you kill somebody in the general lobby, they're going to see that badge, right? And it gives you a chance to kind of show off your bragging rights and who you are. So, and it could be that elite level players will, each time they get one of these tickets, they'll just use it. But it's also just as likely that they'll play their normal way they play, and when they've built up 5 games, okay, let's just take a break now and play 5 games in a row of this sort of lighthearted mode. And it becomes a little time just to ease back and relax a little bit and have some fun. So the final piece of all of this is the server selection, right? So at the moment, the only way to select what server you want to play on is to quit the game and on startup pick the server. And then once you're in that, the leader of the squad, whatever server they've selected, is where that squad is going to play for the entire duration of the game. So this provides very limited ability for Respawn to load balance in a dynamic basis. And also gives players very little ability to control their own destiny during the game. So by providing the ability to access a server list from the lobby screen, players can now choose a server that gives them a good ping time, which is what people are looking for. But without taking that as the only metric, can also look for a volume of players where a server has enough players on there to give an interesting mix, right? So if you go to a lobby or a server where there's a very low population of general players, then you're much more likely to get bounced up into elite games on a more regular basis. Likewise, elite level players would probably look for servers that have a reasonably high volume of elite level players so that they don't have long queue times waiting to get a game. So as you can see from the little graphic on the right, that screen would change a little bit. It would still show the ping and the packet loss values, but then it would give you the volume of players in each of those lobbies. It could even be that general lobby might show the availability of for elite level tickets, so that players know that if they come in there and they've got a lobby ticket, they could maybe get a game on that there, or some sort of metric that indicates that. So by default, the top right there has a checkbox called Auto Select Server, and that will be on by default. So the great majority of players are lazy about this kind of thing. They're just going to leave it on that setting. So by having this set, it allows Respawn to dynamically balance servers after each game. So you could move a squad around from one server to another, so that as the volume becomes too high on one server, you could move a portion of players over to another server to try and maintain that balance. So your goal is to try and always end up with at least a medium population on a certain number of servers. So if we look at Iowa, that has 4 servers here, it may be that you keep maybe 1 or 2 servers at a medium level late at night, and then as it gets into more prime time, you start to build up the population on those other servers. So if a squad, though, turns off that checkbox, they then get to control exactly which server they go to, exactly the way it currently works, except that it's in a more dynamic balance. So in conclusion, what we've talked about here describes how this system will work. I want to just close out with a little bit about why I think this system matters, right? So the key thing is it doesn't ignore the quality of the experience for the elite level players and even those upper tier of the journeyman level players. So these are the people that are the champions of the game in social media. And while the assumption may be that if we keep 80% of players happy, that the game will stay healthy, the reality is that you're going to get some churn of players in any game that will leave purely because they see another game that looks interesting, they get a different kind of lifestyle that means they can't play games as much, and then you'll lose a certain percentage of population, and you need new players to come in all the time. If you now alienate 20% of players on top of that and they leave the game, especially if those are your influencers, then you lower your ability to attract new players into the game. So I think, as I said right at the beginning of this, it's a very flawed assumption to think that if we can keep most players happy, that the game will stay healthy. It's important to keep the right people happy. And why would you create a system that intentionally alienates a certain percentage of players at the cost of others? I think this also, the way that this system works, it improves the experience for players below the elite level status as well, right? So the novice players are better protected, and it retains as many players as possible in a game that feels balanced. Now, the system's probably not going to make everybody happy, but what will, right? So it makes a best attempt, and I hope that you guys think that it does that. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and found something interesting there. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe to be notified when I create new videos. It's especially important to me on this video that we get a bunch of likes and get some visibility on this, because I'd like Respawn to see this video. I'd really think that they could take some ideas from this that could really help the game. It may even be that they don't go with the exact system, but it inspires them to think a little bit more about transparency in the skill-based matchmaking system and how to make the game better as a result. If you want to come and talk to me about this, I'd love to have you come into the chat, either on my Discord channel, the link's down below, or on my Twitch channel where we can talk more interactively. I stream every night from 7 p.m., except on Mondays and Wednesdays when I start a little bit later at 8 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks for watching, and as always, happy gaming.
Ooh, so many teams landing.
Damn. Well, I got that annoying octane at least.